All won the Liberty Blue Division and were undefeated in their division for the second time in 4 years. And Play Unified just had their last soccer game. So congratulations to all of the high school athletes. Our fall play will be Pride and Prejudice. Ticket information is posted on the district's website. The showings are Thursday, November 20th, Friday, November 21st, and Saturday, November 22nd. And for those of you who have not seen the play, it is completely worth the price of admission. It is wonderful, and all of the students are so talented. So please come and see. The Washington Halloween Parade and all of the schools, elementary schools' Halloween parades were a huge hit. If you'd like to see pictures, they're on our website. Everyone looked wonderful. And in particular, the Washington Parade was great. ECLC, Garden Terrace, and the CHS Marching Band and Cougar Crew all added to such a special community event. So thank you to everyone. For those of you who are interested in helping with some of the families in our local area or in the district that are struggling with food insecurity, the district is partnering with Helping Hands, and we'll do a Stuff the Bus initiative at each of the district schools, so you'll hear about that shortly. So thank you to everyone who's willing to send in some food with their children for local families in need. And finally, I'd really like to thank the CHS and District Art Department for the phenomenal work that they did with the District Art Show, but also in particular with the Board of Education conference room artwork. Basically in the spring when we had the art show, there was a superintendent selection of student pieces throughout the district of all ages, and the art department throughout the district framed the pieces. They looked wonderful, and right before the meeting we had an unveil at the conference room, and it was just a wonderful event. The kids were phenomenal, the families were great, and I cannot thank Lauren Spooner and the art department enough for their tremendous work with everything, so thank you. And finally, we're on to Dr. Donahue's testing report. So I'd like the board to join us in the crowd, please.
Good evening, everyone. This is a required presentation by the New Jersey Department of Education to share the results of the district state standardized assessments. I just realized I forgot my clicker. So tonight I will be reporting out on 4 of our standardized assessments: the 2025 New Jersey Student Learning Assessments in English Language Arts, Mathematics, and Science; the Access, which is the Assessing Comprehension in English State to State for English Language Learners; the NJGPA, which is the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment; and the DLM, or Dynamic Learning Maps. I have also taken this opportunity this evening to share some additional information on student achievement on our AP tests and the Seal of Biliteracy and National Merit Scholarships. Just as a point of reference, I wanted to share some background on the history of our state assessments. So state and federal law require that states administer assessments that are aligned to our state standards, and the results must be valid, reliable, and comparable statewide. New Jersey has been administering statewide assessments since 1978. The most recent history of testing in New Jersey includes the transition from NJ-ASC to PARC in 2015 to NJSLA that was administered for the first time in 2019. Students did not take NJSLA in 2020 and 2021 due to the pandemic. In this coming year, in the spring of 2026, the assessment will change once again and become an adaptive test with a new vendor, Cambium, not Pearson, for ELA and for mathematics. The structure of NJSLA is such that ELA is administered in grades 3 to 8, mathematics is administered in grades 3 to 8 as well, and in the areas of Algebra 1, Algebra 2, and Geometry. And as you will recall from previous years, science is only administered in grades 5, 8, and 11. We report out on assessments to see how our instruction and programming is aligned to meeting the expectations of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. We gather data across ELA, math, and science to gauge how our students are doing meeting the goals and objectives in each content area. And we engage in this process to identify areas of strength as well as areas in which we could improve. It is important to note that we do not rely solely on NJSLA, as we know it represents just a snapshot of our students' learning, and we rely on formative assessments, summative assessments, performance tasks, and anecdotal records gathered from daily classroom observations, interactions, and discussions. In analyzing the results, we recognize that NJSLA is a single snapshot of a student performance in a controlled environment. It is one data point in a broader summary of our student learning. All of these assessments are evaluated comprehensively to see that our programs are meeting the needs of our students while also meeting state standards. And as a reminder, there are 5 performance levels for ELA and math. 1 being did not meet expectations, level 2 is partially met expectations, level 3 is approached, level 4 has met expectations, and level 5 is having exceeded. As we dig deeper into the presentation, you will see that Chatham's performance exceeds that of the state in all 3 content areas. With this in mind, there is a wide range of skills assessed with the ELA test. Students are asked to look at literary text, informational text, text that incorporates other content areas such as social studies and science and related vocabulary. The writing strands assessments include written expression as well as knowledge of language and conventions. In regards to writing, it is always worth noting that this process is vastly different from how we teach our students to write. When we write in the classroom, we teach students that writing is a process. We encourage them to brainstorm ideas, strategically craft a story, gather evidence to support a point, evaluate what they have written, dig back in for editing, elicit feedback from a teacher or a writing partner, and gauge the effectiveness of the piece. However, in this controlled setting, students are told what to write about with time constraints, so it is not an authentic piece of work. As you look at the data on the slide, you will see that we are meeting or exceeding it at a noticeable rate as compared to the state. For each column, Chatham's performance is in yellow and the state performance is in red. As we begin on the left side, we see level 1, which is not meeting expectations. So this is where we would want to see low numbers in the columns, and that is indeed what we see. Our numbers remain low in the level 2 column, which is partially meeting expectations and much lower than the state. As we move across the slide to move to levels 4, which is meeting expectation, and 5, which is exceeding, you will see that our numbers are high and we exceed state performance in each grade 3 to 9. Chatham's performance compared to the state is better highlighted on this slide with a side-by-side comparison for each grade level and the percentage of students who met or are exceeding expectations. As you can see, our performance stretches up to nearly 30% when comparing Chatham's performance to that of the state in ELA across grades 3 to 9. And when you take the average of all of our tested grades in ELA, we outperform the state by roughly 22%. As per the state, we are required to share the assessment data broken down by subgroups. For confidentiality purposes, if there are less than 10 students in a particular subgroup, we do not report the results. In mathematics, the strands assessed include major content, supporting content, and students are asked to demonstrate the ability to reason mathematically and model real-world problem-solving scenarios. Comparable to the slide showing our ELA performance at each level, you will see a similar trend with Chatham showing low percentages of students in the level 1 and 2 ranges as compared to the state, and then we see a reverse as we approach the opposite side of the slide with higher percentages rates for levels 4 and 5. Our performance compared to the state is slightly easier to see on this slide, where we identify that we outperform by approximately 31% in grade 3, 33.7% in grade 4, 31.1% in grade 5, 33.3% in grade 6, and 32.9% in grade 7. As we do each year, we do point out that in grade 8, the majority of students were enrolled in geometry and not in grade 8 math, and we will discuss this as we engage with questions with our math supervisor and myself following the presentation. On this slide, we hone in on our performance in our higher level math courses. For geometry, within this overall number, 216 students at Chatham Middle School took geometry, and of that, 57% received a 4 or 5 for passing scores. 75 students at CHS took geometry with a 20% pass rate. For Algebra 1, 257 students at Chatham High School took Algebra 1, and 67% received a 4 or 5. And there were 15 students at Chatham Middle School who took Algebra 1, and all 15 received a score of a 4 or a 5. Once again, here is the subgroup overview. Any NAs indicate that 10 students or less were identified for that group, and therefore the results are not shared. As we shift to science, we will, you'll remember that we have 4 performance levels, not 5. Level 1 is below proficient, level 2 is nearing proficiency, 3 is proficient, and 4 is advanced. In science, this assessment is designed to measure student proficiency in the knowledge specified by New Jersey Student Learning Standards for science. Students are required to demonstrate their ability to utilize the science and engineering practices to examine scientific phenomena appropriately, and it covers content in life, physical, and earth science. As we saw with ELA and math, this slide indicates each performance level and how our students performed as compared to the state. Here, once again, we are looking for low numbers on levels 1 and 3, and looking for higher levels for 3 and 4. In a side-by-side comparison, this is what our data looks like. Looking back at last year's data, the state largely remained the same while we improved our 5th grade scores by approximately 5%. 8th grade remained primarily the same, and in 11th grade, we did experience a dip with our results, and we are examining as to why that may be. This slide shares our subgroup data for students scoring as proficient or advanced proficient. So once again, the ACCESS stands for Assessing Comprehension and Communication in English State to State for English Level Learners. The ACCESS for MLLs 2.0 is an assessment, is a series of language proficiency summative assessments given to all students who receive ESL services. There are 4 tests that are given in the categories of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And the proficiency levels range from 1, which is a new entrant, to 6, which is reaching. And it is recommended that once students in the ESL program achieve a score of a 4.5 or higher, that they are exited. And in the spring of 2025, there were 48 students who were administered this assessment. Our results are as follows. We had 8.3% who were still in that entering stage. We had 6.2 who were in the emerging range. 23% were in the developing range, 4.1 in expanding, over 16% were bridging, and we had a strong success with over 41% of our students who were reaching. The DLM stands for Dynamic Learning Maps, and it is an alternative assessment for students with significant cognitive disabilities to show performance on essential elements of content standards. For the DLM, there are 4 specific achievement levels, including emerging, approaching the target, at target, and advanced. This past year in the spring, we had 14 students who participated in the mathematics test, 14 participated in the ELA, and there were 8 who participated in the administration of the science assessment. Students are not compared to other students, but evaluated for their own individual progress. And you can see on this slide that there were 66% who were in the emerging approaching target for ELA, 44 for mathematics, and 22 for science. and students who are identified as at target or advanced for English language arts were at 33%, 55% for mathematics, and 33% for science. The New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment, known as NJ-GPA, consists of both ELA and mathematics. It is administered to students in grade 11. It is meant to be a means of meeting the, identifying students who have met the state graduation requirement, and the cut score is a 725. You will see in Chatham we had 96.3% of our students who met the graduation requirement for ELA, and for math it was 88.2%. Just a reminder, for students who are not meeting that requirement, there are various pathways for which a student can be successful in meeting that requirement. And here is our data for the GPA subgroup. This year I did want to include some of our data regarding the AP enrollment and the performance of our students. So last year at Chatham High School, 1,367 AP courses were taken. And of those courses, 1,157 AP exams were taken. So the total number of students enrolled in AP courses, 85% took the exams. On this slide, you can see with the exception of 2023, we had a significant jump in the number of APs being taken by our students in 2025, up by roughly 100 students. And the data on this slide shows that 97% of students who took the exams passed with scores of 3 or higher. And when you dig deeper, you will see that among the students who received 5s on their exam, it was 43%, and those who received 4s, 36%. Another worthwhile data point to share is that we had 28 students who were awarded the Seal of Biliteracy. The Seal of Biliteracy is an award given by the New Jersey Department of Education in recognition of students who have studied and attained proficiency in at least one language in addition to English by the time of high school graduation. The students who received the Seals of Biliteracy this past spring, we had 18 students who received it for Spanish, 5 students for French, 3 for German, and we had 2 students who received the Seal of Biliteracy for American Sign Language. We maybe have seen in the news, we had 4 Chatham High School seniors who have been named National Merit Scholarship semifinalists, and that's in addition to the 27 seniors who received letters of recommendation from the National Merit Scholarship Program. So moving forward with all of these data points, it's incumbent upon us to disaggregate the data to identify specific student subpopulations and areas in which we need targeted intervention, which will allow us to allocate resources more effectively. With this data, we also look closely at the professional development we're providing for our teachers. This year so far, we've had AI professional development on the topic of building AI literacy among our students and redefining assessments and personalized learning. Our world language teachers on October 13th had an entire day dedicated to world language proficiency. In our ELA program, we're focusing on patterns of power. Haggerty and Early Bird by Imagine Learning is our newly administered dyslexia screener. We are in the process of revitalizing our gifted and talented program, for which we did provide professional development for teachers in grades 3, 4, and 5. And we continue to have a high number of teachers who do take advantage of professional development conferences in all content areas. We will continue to use this information to combine with our benchmarking, formative assessments, and teacher observations so that we can make instructional decisions to support the growth of all of our students. And thank you. happy to answer any questions from the board.
Mary, I have a question.
Sure.
So I noticed that from English, math, and science, eighth graders seem to be, compared to other grades, consistently underperforming.
I would agree with you on that. So we have been looking into that, Yinglu, to identify what specifically the areas may be. We've touched upon the fact that when we get to eighth grade for math, it is challenging to hone in on exactly what our eighth graders are capable of because they are in various levels of mathematics. Katie Harms is with me this evening, and we have been reviewing the data for particularly eighth grade ELA. I think you will recall last year we had identified that there was a dip. We actually reached out to the state to see what might be the cause of that because it seemed to us there were 25 testing questions, and when we received our data reports, 5 of those questions were identified as only one student answering that, which is not typical for the testing environment. Things that we're looking at to remediate on the math side for the middle school, as you know, this is our first year where we've reversed our sequence, and we do think that that will help us improve our outcomes. We are also working actively, Katie and the team and I, to examine the minutes that are allocated to ELA at the middle school and seeing as we develop the schedule for next year, adding more ELA time. As we've said many times with ELA, we're essentially teaching 3 subjects in one with our reading, our writing, and our grammar and conventions. And we think it would be beneficial for our students to have more time to focus on development of their ELA skills.
Dr. Donahue, I think an important point that you made at the beginning is to say that this is really an assessment that is just a snapshot in time. And as this testing moves more to an adaptive format, is it fair to say that, you know, not less value, but it'll take some time since we won't have year-over-year comparison, so it'll be even more important for support to be given real time in classes versus depending on a test like this?
Yeah, we definitely always like to highlight that, Susan, and thank you for circling back to that. Our teachers on a day-to-day basis have a very, very extensive knowledge of what their students are capable of, and as we recognize that this is given on one day, it's a snapshot. It does factor into our decision making, but we like to look at the totality of what our students and how they're performing, how they're engaging with the content, their ability to receive feedback. The reason I did include in the presentation the history of our state assessments is if you consider the fact that NJSLA was first administered in 2019, then we had 2 years off due to the pandemic. Now we're 3 years back into the data and the assessment is changing again. And we are in the midst of doing the field testing right now for that, which you know we're not receiving any results. So I do think we're all anxious to see what the test actually looks like and what our results look like and then what our decision making will look like.
I have a question. Dr. Donahue, could you explain, you mentioned that in levels 1 and 2, we were looking for lower scores, and then levels 3 and 5, we were looking for higher scores. Can you explain that? I'm not sure I understand what that means.
Sure. So when they talk, Mike, about students who are passing, it's our students who are receiving 4s and 5s. So 4 is that you're meeting the expectation of the grade level, and 5 means you're exceeding it. So that's where you would expect to see our highest numbers. Students who are scoring 1s and 2s, what we look to see is that that's a smaller percentage because that's students who are not meeting expectations at all. And what we do find as we come upon these assessments, when we go back and we identify those students that are in those categories, we're gratified to know that in most cases, those are students who are already on our radar. And if there does seem to be a discrepancy, we're able to look back and see how are they performing on a daily basis. And sometimes it does work out that they're simply not great test takers, but we do really try and make sure that the numbers in the categories of 1 and 2 are on the lower side. And it is interesting when you look at a level 3, that in many cases, they're literally 3 or 4 points shy of being a level 4, which means they're very close to meeting the expectations of the grade level.
Another question.
Sure.
How long have we had the biliteracy assessments?
Oh, for a very long time, long before I got here.
Okay.
So if you're at the high school, they have to apply to take that assessment. It's not something that's given to all students. If they feel that they have the capacity to do well on that, then it's, that opportunity is available to them. They sign up for the assessment in November, and then it's administered in January, but it's not something that's given to everyone.
For the classic language, I get we've had those. Classic languages, I get that we've had those. But what about the sign language assessment? How long have we had that availability?
As long as the ASL program has been in, since it's been established. This year is the first year that we're running ASL 5, but even students who were taking ASL 4 were eligible to take that assessment.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment. It's like the worst kept secret in town that I hate these standardized testing. I don't even know how you can call them standardized. The time I've been on the board, there's been 5 different standardized testing. So I think they're a huge time suck, and it takes away from the teachers. It certainly does not highlight the depth of our programs, the deliberate nature of our process, or the rigor of our programs. It doesn't capture the achievements of our students by any stretch of the imagination. And worst of all, it doesn't reflect the extraordinary commitment of our teachers. The daily pursuit of excellence is what sets us apart, and it's the educators, and this just takes time away from them. And these ever-changing standardized tests will never reflect the hard work and achievement that our educators accomplish every single day. So I appreciate that you have to do it, and I appreciate the time you put into it, but as some predecessors have said, these tests are garbage. But I hope you can derive some results from it that are helpful and steer you in a direction, but a snapshot, a point in time is ridiculous.
Well, the board always recognizes the work of our teachers. We have our Lafayette teachers who've been in the weeds with testing for many weeks now, so it's wonderful to hear. And I know you feel like that, Jill, and I know the board echoes your sentiments, but hopefully it's information that our teachers will take back, that really it's the work they do every day that reflects the achievement and progress of our students. So thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. It's not the testing, it's you guys.
Yes? All right, thank you, Dr. Donahue.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to turn it over to Peter to give us a construction update,
Sure, this Thursday and Friday, when schools are closed, the metalwork will be completed at CMS, where they did the brickwork by the auditorium, and been working with the Finance Committee on capital projects to be included in the 26-27 budget. I'm proud to announce that with the help of Synergistic, both the high school and Southern Boulevard achieved Energy Star certification for 2025. So thank you for the schools for all their cooperation, and Synergistic for filing all the forms. And we did our semi-annual evacuation drills at the high school on October 16th and 17th, the middle school October 15th, Lafayette on October 15th, and Southern Boulevard and Washington Avenue School on the 14th. That's all I have, unless anybody has questions.
Any questions for Peter? Nope. Okay. Summer, wait for you for the student liaison.
Okay, so I just have a quick report for today. For our sports, most of, if not all of our fall sports have entered into the state tournaments. Just a quick congratulations to our boys and girls soccer teams, girls tennis, and our boys cross-country team on winning the county tournament. Awesome job. The boys and girls game was crazy. It was back-to-back. I know Dr. Sortino talked about this, but they played the same team, and then they both won. It was awesome. So congratulations to them. For school, so something kind of interesting is that we are going, in order, to try and, coincide with the New Jersey's general election tomorrow, Chatham students ranging from grades 4th to 12th grade have the opportunity to vote in a mock election. This is really a great opportunity for students to understand our local government better, as well as learn how voting works. And something kind of fun, so in events at the high school, they do an annual Halloween costume contest. So on the 31st, last Friday, students were invited to dress up in their most festive Halloween costume, and the top 6 best costumes were chosen as the winners and received a prize. And lastly, many of our college rep visits are coming to an end. These visits gave an opportunity for juniors and seniors to learn more about the colleges they may be interested in, and it gave a lot of clarity on some post-secondary plans. It was really helpful, and that's all I have for today.
We're going to move to committee reports. First to Ms. Weber for personnel.
We have not met since the last meeting, but we will be meeting again on November 12th.
Great. I'm going to update on curriculum. Same story there. We have not met since the last meeting, but our next one is also on November 12th. Finance and facilities, is that Yinglu? Oh, no, Jill?
I
Okay.
can do it, thanks.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith was at the committee meeting and just couldn't make this meeting. We talked about several capital projects that need to be completed in the upcoming spring. We also talked about potential projects in the fall, like the turf fields, which we've been saying are in need of replacement. We discussed the resignation of the assistant business administrator, and interviews are ongoing with that. Do we anticipate an end date or not necessarily? Peter, do you have a target end date that you'd like to settle that, or no? It depends on the candidates.
I've already lined up 7 interviews for this week.
Wow. Good for you. Excellent, thank you. We discussed a concern with, regarding benefits and how we reimburse and recoup some things from teachers. And a potential contract loyalty, which I thought was interesting in that you commit to Under Armour or Nike or Converse, showing my age. And you get a discount on the uniforms. Is there also money back, or no? It's also some money back. So more to follow on that. It's, we have to see what the discount is, and Darren is pretty much spearheading that. I was this close to saying new Darren.
Do you have anything like that in place ever before? No?
No. And also, then the possible return of the Strauss SMA for policies. I didn't realize that was a possible. Is that I thought that was a definite. Okay, possible until it's definite. So those are the highlights of the finance meeting.
Any questions for Jill? All right, thank you. Policy and planning, Mr. Ryan?
Yep. Policy met on October 29th. We did have a discussion regarding transferring policies back from New Jersey school boards to Strauss Esme. We discussed the violence and vandalism policy, and those 2 are on tonight's agenda for adoption. The attendance policy was updated. This is a required policy from CUSAC. That's also on tonight's agenda for adoption. And we also have a first reading of the visitor policy. It's being edited to include language about the new visitor management software that we're going to be deploying in the district.
Can you remind us about that? Is it your license now gets scanned?
Yes.
Okay. If you don't have a license, you can't enter?
Some form of government
Or
ID
90.
needs to be scanned, and it's scanned against, possible criminal
databases.
threats and other things that may be in your background that may require somebody to accompany you throughout the school
Understood.
in case there's a flag
Right.
in the software.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Ryan? No? Okay, great. Liaison reports. Does anybody have anything to report on? I quickly have something for CF, just a reminder that trivia night is going to be Saturday, November 14th. 15th. There are some tables left available, so if you haven't gotten your trivia team together, now's the time. And Jill?
Just a quick plug for Veterans Day. The borough is having a ceremony downtown on Veterans Day, November 11th at 1 p.m. They're also going to put up their hometown heroes banners, so that's kind of the commencement of that. So if you're available in downtown, please stop by that.
Great. Anybody else? No? All right, if that's it, I'd like to make a motion to move the minutes of the October 13th public session minutes.
Second.
Great. All in favor? I think we were,
Duly noted, the minutes pass 5-0.
all right. All right, we're going to have our first opportunity for public comment. Hearing of citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are or are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers are asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time, and please make sure you just sign in when you get to the podium.
Good evening, Bill Heap. Something very quickly, since the next meeting is in December, just want to make everybody aware that the J.C.'s are gearing up for our 58th annual tree sale. This is our major fundraiser, and last year we had the pleasure of giving out $50,000 in scholarships and grants to various organizations around town. I think everybody's got a vested interest in this. This is a great community event. We get help from the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Key Club, various other people around town. And where else can you buy a tree and get your money back? Our overhead is near zero, and everything we collect goes back into town. So we would appreciate it if you could stop by and purchase a tree. And our trailer will be rolling down the road on 2 brand-new tires this year, so we hope that it won't collapse. But I would like to make everybody aware that corporate naming rights are available for that trailer if you would like to have your name on the side. So thanks, and we look forward to seeing you sometime after Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Bill. That's a lot. My Boy Scout and my Key Clubber will be there to volunteer, but thanks for the generous give back to the community there. All right, so we're going to go through the agenda now, and then there'll be a second opportunity for public commentary at the end. I'll turn it over to Ms. Weber to move the personnel items.
Excellent, thank you, Susan. I'd like to move items A1 through A23 on the regular agenda. There's no addendum. Thank you, ladies.
I'll second.
Agenda items A1 to A23. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Peck?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 5-0.
All right, great. I just need somebody to move the finance and facilities. Okay.
I'd like to move action items B1 to B20 on the regular agenda. Just need a second.
A second.
Just want to point out the donation from the Lafayette School PTO of nearly $5,000 to purchase library furniture, which has been very generous. Yeah, there are quite a few.
Agenda items B1 through B20. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Peck?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 5-0.
Wait, I'm going to move the curriculum agenda items C1 to C5.
Second?
Agenda items C1 through C5. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Peck?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
And Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
Agenda items pass 5-0.
Great, and then I'll turn it over to Mr. Ryan for policy.
Yes, I'd like to move action item D1 for a vote. Regular agenda.
Second.
Like have a question on the third policy. I just want to make sure we frown on violence and vandalism. That's
We're frowning on it.
frowning, okay, as long as we have a policy to frown on that.
Agenda item D1, Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Peck?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang? D1 passes 5-0.
Great. Anybody else have any board business they'd like to mention? Nope. All right, this is our opportunity for the second public commentary, so if anybody has anything they'd like to share, come on up. Doesn't look like there is, so we will be having a executive session after, and action will be taken, so just wanted to note that. And otherwise, the meeting is adjourned, and I'll get to hit this. Thanks, guys.